News Channel 7. This is Viewpoint.
Welcome to Viewpoint. I'm Doug Petcash. It's been 4 months since the 2023 Idaho legislative session adjourned on April 6th, and it's another 5 months until the next one. There's usually a bit of a lull over the intervening months, but the work of the state government is still churning along. On July 19th, Governor Brad Little announced that Idaho ended the 2022 fiscal year with another budget surplus. Nowhere near last year's historic $1.6 billion surplus, but a more modest $100 million. All of that $100 million will go to property tax relief, one of the major issues in the last session. Also in late May, the governor went to the Texas-Mexico border to see how Texas is fighting the flow of the dangerous drug fentanyl into the country. He also sent Idaho state troopers there to help Texas's efforts and to learn drug interdiction and detection techniques to bring back here to train other officers. His new fentanyl roundtable met for the first time in July. It's focusing on the lessons learned from the ISP mission in order to enhance Idaho's response to fentanyl being smuggled here. And now, with the new school year upon us, many of the state's plans for and investments in our public schools are kicking in. The legislature approved and the governor signed bills investing $410 million of the state's record $1.6 billion budget surplus into public education. Here's a list of some of the key investments. Among them, lawmakers approved the Idaho Launch Grant program for qualifying Idaho's high school seniors. They bumped up starting teacher pay to more than $47,000 per year, increased overall teacher pay, increased funding for public schools by more than 16%, and made the Empowering Parents Grant program permanent. These are all part of what Governor Little calls his Idaho First plan. All of those issues are the focus of today's Viewpoint, and my guest is Idaho Governor Brad Little. Sir, thank you for being here today.
My pleasure.
So what's on your mind this summer? What have you been focusing on?
Well, most summers, and this is not an exception, it's about executing the plan that we proposed at the State of the State last year and even before that. So whether it's education, whether it's safe streets with, drugs and whatever else that might be, whether it's, we just had a water summit just a few days ago. It's executing the laws of the state and leading. I just was talking to the people that are in charge of the cybersecurity for the state and the good work that all of them are doing.
So you created the Operation Esto Perpetua to fight the influx of fentanyl into Idaho. Why is that necessary? How bad is the problem here?
Well, fentanyl, has grown logarithmically when it first started. Fentanyl's been around for a long time, but what really kind of turned the corner was when the cartels in Mexico started making pills. One of the things that we were doing before was what we were doing about legal opioids, prescriptions, drugs that were being abused, and what we needed to do to make sure that pharmacists weren't over-prescribing and to make people aware, consumers aware of the risk. Well, when they started taking fentanyl, which is incredibly addictive and in many, many instances fatal, too many instances fatal, when they started making that abundantly available, affordable and available, then it went to a crisis. So we wanted to stop it from coming in from the source, which almost all of it's coming from Mexico, make people aware of it, work with our local law enforcement, and then put in together programs for pre-prosecution diversions and for treatment for people that are having problems.
And back in May, you went with 9 other governors to Texas to, for a briefing on border security there, largely focusing on the smuggling of fentanyl. What was your big takeaway from that trip?
Well, obviously awareness. When you see the magnitude, when you see the holes that are out there and how difficult it is. But when we went the first time, we made a list of recommendations to the president, 10 different things that they could do that we knew would provide more security and lessen whether it's human trafficking, drug trafficking, crime, terrorists coming across the border. We went back to kind of reaffirm that. There's a couple things that he has done, some other things they haven't, but the magnitude of the problem, particularly in Texas and Arizona, is overwhelming. Those communities are just overwhelmed, and of course that problem is radiating all over the United States.
And then you sent troopers to help out with Texas's efforts and also to learn. So does that seem to be paying off?
Yeah, we did two different things. We sent our drug interdiction people there basically to learn from DPS, or Department of Public Safety, which would be our state police, about how do you recognize people that are smuggling drugs? What do you do for interdiction? Where do they hide it in trucks and cars, and fill in the blank? How do you profile these people? You know, profiling is, you know, you're just basically saying there's a high probability that this person is going to be smuggling drugs. So we did the drug side, and then we also sent a team down there to help Texas get these people that are, they kind of call them, these are people that can't get across legally. What most people don't understand, there's a whole bunch of people that are coming across that under this administration, they come across and say they want protection for amnesty, and they take their name, give them an I-94 to go to work, give them a court date, sometimes as far as 7-8 years out, and let them go. And in many instances, they ship them to where they want to go. So there's the people that are coming across in that area, and then there's the people that are really nefarious, criminals, drug smugglers, and you need to learn about both.
And so those troopers and the other officers went, they learned. Now what are they doing with that information?
Well, our state police, your state police, my state police, they're doing and we've got a really good team, and the legislature funded a new enhanced drug interdiction team. But one of the things they're doing is working with sheriffs, police, all over the state. We had our Esto Perpetua meeting. We went around the state and heard from sheriffs, law enforcement, city police, and then that's how we all work as a team in Idaho to keep our people safe.
So are they training
Yes.
other people? Okay. And then also there was this roundtable recently. What's the purpose of the roundtable?
Well, a lot of it's awareness. A lot of it is, what do we do in schools? What do we do with in communities? We're a state that we put money together, and it's actually administered through our Department of Corrections, and communities can ask for a pre-prosecution diversion. And it was actually one of my first Esto Perpetua. It was the chief of police from Coeur d'Alene that said, these people, some of them, they bought a pill or were given a pill by somebody, they thought it was a oxycodone pill or whatever it was. We probably shouldn't fill our prisons up with them. So we're putting programs together. Obviously, anybody trafficking, that's a whole different.
Yeah.
But people like that, we want to have programs. We've just got all the grants out, and then we're going to monitor where the success is, because we had people over and over and over tell us, you can't put everybody in prison and not work on the other side of the problem to get ahead of this substance abuse crisis that we have.
Another big issue in the legislative session was property tax relief. Approved about $200 million at that point. The surplus came back $100 million this year. That's going towards property tax relief. But you have to rely basically on the municipalities, school districts, to make sure that that is used that way. So how can the state make sure that the money's used for what it was intended?
It'll be used. I mean, there'll be a process. Everybody wants to know how much their property taxes are going to go down. Right now, school districts, cities and counties, and other taxing districts are putting their budgets together. When they put their budget together, and then and their assessed valuation, then they'll know what their taxes is, and then the state will come around and credit them to help with that part of the part of the issue. So you'll know as a property taxpayer in November or December how much your property taxes are going down. It'll be anywhere from maybe at the minimum 10% and a maximum of 25 or 30%.
Does more need to be done in that regard, in your opinion?
Well, simultaneously, now the Boise area is a little bit of an exception, simultaneously values are coming down. So if we did nothing and your residential value stayed the same or went down, or something else happened in your taxing district that values went up, your property taxes go down, even if I and the legislature hadn't done anything. But the combination of this $300 million with what's happened in the residential, I believe the property taxes will go down. And then, you know, we put money into sewer, we put money into water, we put money into roads, we put money into teacher pay. All of those are funded either through fees that you pay, water fees and sewer fees, or through your property taxes. So you add all of that up, property taxes, in most instances, should be less.
You know, we hear a lot about another issue with you know, the drought in the West. It's ongoing. We had a good water year this year, but you just did hold a water summit on the 7th. Why hold a summit?
Well, we had a good snowfall and runoff year, but our goal that we started years ago was we have to protect the aquifer. Of course, the big one in Idaho is the eastern Idaho aquifer that starts
Snake River Plain.
Yeah, it starts, you know, almost the state line and comes all the way down to Hagerman, and that's when it's full. It's the size of Lake Erie. There's that much water there. That has been going down even when we're filling our reservoirs, even when we're having rainfall, even when we're having snow. So this was a 40,000-foot view of what all of the impacts on the aquifer, not only on the Snake River Plain, but here in the Treasure Valley, up in the Palouse, up in the Rathdrum Prairie, which is around Coeur d'Alene. The water issues that we have everywhere, make everybody aware that their little problem in their area is part of a great big problem, and that's that Idaho's growing at a record pace, and the climate's changing, and between the climate change and the, you know, when the snow goes off earlier, that was water that was stored in snow, and if it runs out of the state, it's lost.
I know that there have been efforts to recharge the aquifer. Are those working? Are they at least keeping it steady?
Absolutely, but I think I said we've got all the low-hanging fruit. We've done the easy, you know, here's an old canal, we're going to run water out into it, or gravel pits, or now recharge is going to be more expensive, because if we prudently manage, watch we don't overpump, and do recharge, we can build that aquifer back up. So, a lot of the states in the West, their geology is different, and when that aquifer gets depleted, the ground shrinks and you don't have a place to store it. We're very blessed, the geography we have here, that we can store. We can build storage. We can store water underground cheaper than we can building new reservoirs.
Governor, we're going to take a quick break right now, and Governor Little has long said his #1 priority is public education in Idaho. As I mentioned earlier, state lawmakers made huge extra investments in our public schools. I'll talk with the governor about turning that money into results next on Viewpoint.
At California Closets, we believe every space deserves a custom solution.
From the consultation to the final installation, every detail was buttoned up and very professional.
That's what we call practical magic. Request a free design consultation.
Toyota's national sales event is on. Make the most of summer with a new Toyota.
We want the gray Tacoma.
Gray Tacoma coming in hot.
On it! Highlander Hybrid.
Highlander Hybrid on the double hang.
Here we go.
That Red RAV4.
Run a red RAV4.
Hit the deck.
Now that's how you holler.
Every new Toyota comes with Toyota Care, our no-cost maintenance plan with roadside assistance. Visit your local Toyota dealer to learn more. Reserve yours at toyota.com.
Come in today.
Toyota, let's go places.
Sign up for Idaho's most popular race, St. Luke's Fit 1. Join us at the starting line on September 23rd and set your own goal.
5K, 10K, or half marathon.
Don't wait. Prices increase on September 1st.
And children 12 and under are free with each adult registration.
Every dollar raised is helping children and families live their healthiest lives.
St. Luke's Fit One.
To learn more, visit the community page at ktvb.com.
At the Bridge at Valley View, your connection to the care you need and the tradition of excellence you have trusted for 40 years. Don't take it from us. Hear what families have to say.
This is a nice facility, but it's the people that make the difference.
Everybody here is just genuinely interested in the well-being of their residents. It truly is a blessing that we found Valley View. I'm very grateful that my mom is here.
Come discover a better way to live at the Bridge at Valley View. Call or visit us online to learn more.
NetCredit is here to say yes, even when other lenders won't. Apply online in minutes and get funds deposited the next business day or sooner. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
And welcome back to Viewpoint. Today we're focusing on some of the big issues in Idaho this summer. And with school starting, education is one of them. It always is, really. What our state leaders approved during the last legislative session is now kicking in. Recapping for you, the legislature approved and the governor signed those bills investing $410 million of the state's record $1.6 billion budget surplus into public education. Among those, lawmakers approved the Idaho Launch Grant Program for qualifying Idaho high school seniors, bumped up starting teacher pay to more than $47,000 a year, increased overall teacher pay, and increased funding for public schools by more than 16%, and made the Empowering Parents Grant Program permanent. Once again, my guest today is Governor Brad Little. And sir, what is the key piece of all of that in your mind?
Competitive teacher pay. We were one of the bottom states in teacher pay when I started this job, and we won't be the top, but we'll be very competitive. Idaho's kind of unique that particularly Wyoming, Oregon, and Washington and Montana have always paid more. So I was concerned from even before I started as governor that I didn't want our best and brightest going to teach somewhere else, and I wanted to get them into the teaching profession. Our big initiative, which was $120 million that we've done over the last 2 or 3 years, is really competitive health insurance for all school districts around the state, starting teacher pay, veteran teacher pay, and then of course literacy. If you've got a constitutional and moral obligation to teach kids, they better be able to read.
By third grade.
Yep.
Right. Superintendent Critchfield, I had her on Viewpoint last week, and we talked about whether or not the pay increases were making a difference. And she said it's still kind of too early really to tell about recruitment and retention of teachers. But anecdotally, she was hearing that there are fewer teacher openings. Are you hearing
yes,
along those lines?
And then the enrollment in our teachers' colleges, Boise State, University of Idaho, LC, and Idaho State, our enrollment of high school kids enrolling in the education college has gone up substantially, like 40%. And that's a great indicator, besides the fact that they have fewer vacancies, as Superintendent Critchfield alluded to, the fact that we've got increased enrollment. Those are all good leading indicators that and probably more important than anything is the fact that we respect those professionals in the classroom. We want them to be successful. These kids today have a lot of challenges that didn't exist a year in my time, and these educators need the support of the community to do their job.
Yep, COVID didn't make it easy, did it? Yep. Also, Superintendent Critchfield and a committee are working on a rewrite of the funding formula. There's been a lot of discussion about attendance versus enrollment-based. It went to enrollment during COVID because students couldn't be in class. Now it's back to the attendance-based model where the funding is allocated based on how many butts are in the seats, so to speak. Which way do you think it should be? What should happen with that?
Oh, the kids got to be, particularly if your goal is for all kids to have educational attainment, the kids that have got a great opportunity in life, they've got parents involved, they've had resources, they can miss some days and it's not critical. But you take a child that's maybe got behind during COVID and have some other challenges, they got to be in class. So I think it's incredibly important that we do everything we can to emphasize the need for class time. The state's paying for it. I think there's some adjustments we can do, but kids need to be in class and need to be educated.
So it's as an incentive, basically, to make sure the kids are in class,
right,
to have the funding tied to them being in school.
Yep, exactly.
Let's talk more about investments. It's been, nice having that surplus that's now getting smaller, though, so can't count on that anymore. But one of the other investments that have been over the last few years is in our state parks for outdoor recreation. How important is that? And, how do you view the importance of our state parks and making sure that the maintenance is up to speed?
Well, Idahoans, by our nature, whether it's somebody that moved here a few years ago or somebody's been here forever, enjoy the great outdoors, and our parks are a big part of that. We had gotten behind in our maintenance, as we had in a lot of other areas, schools, universities, state buildings, roads. As we've had this great increase in revenue to the state, rather than building the ongoing expense of government, with the exception of K-12 education, we're trying to pay for all that backlog. A big part of that $100 million is to pay for the backlog and increase capacity, campgrounds and boat docks, so that our existing parks can better serve more people with a higher quality experience. And that's what a lot of that $100 million is invested in.
I've been to a lot of the state parks, and they really are gems in the Idaho state, but I guess in Idaho, but I guess the focus now is on keeping those gems shiny.
Exactly. That's a very good way to put it. And we haven't had a new park for quite some time.
Executive order right there, right?
Well,
create one.
It also takes a little money, and parks require ongoing money. But our park administration will be less if we get caught up on our maintenance. In essence, you won't be doing the patch on the roofs or the roads or the sewer systems or fill in the blank if you've got them all brought up to date. And that means the park experience will be better going into the future.
So are there ongoing efforts to identify something that could be?
Oh, I have people come to me all the time about I said, let me get the ones we got fixed up, and we'll see. But of course that has to be proposed in the legislature. But we actually, one of the things as part of that $100 million is what can all of my agencies do, Fish and Game, parks, lands, fill in the blank. What can we do to enhance non-park outdoor recreation? Like the trails that we have here in the city of Boise, like helping municipalities. So what can we do to help outdoor recreation other than just putting money in one particular community for a park? How can we spread dollars out to enhance outdoor recreation opportunities all over the state?
All right, Governor, we'll take one more short break, and then when we come back, we'll just wrap things up with Governor Brad Little. Stay tuned.
Hi, I'm Brian Gary. A lot of replacement windows may look the same, but there are huge differences and variations of materials that we use. Ted from Renew It by Anderson is here to tell us the differences.
Well, wood windows look great, but they need painting every few years. And aluminum windows are strong, but they conduct heat and cold. Now, vinyl windows might be maintenance-free, but they warp over time. Anderson recognized that there really wasn't a product out there that solved the most frustrating window problems.
So Anderson created Fibrex.
Right. Fibrex is our exclusive composite material, and while wood and vinyl expand and contract a lot, our Fibrex barely expands and contracts at all. So our weather-tight seals stay weather-tight even in the worst and most extreme temperature swings.
And the look of your window is completely customizable.
That's right. We have a variety of window styles and 9 beautiful colors. And you can choose your hardware, your grill styles, and we also have 4 beautiful styles of Anderson patio doors.
And it's incredible what your glass can do.
Yeah, let me demonstrate this. I'm going to use this thermometer to get a temperature of the interior of our room here. It's 74 degrees. But if I shoot this heat lamp, and it's 331 degrees.
So you're telling me on the inside now?
Yep, if I shoot this through the glass, it's right down to about room temperature, 77 degrees. So our glass keeps all the warm air in your house in the wintertime and out of your house during the summertime.
That's a really cool demonstration. Thanks, Ted. Right now, Renewal by Anderson has a huge discount.
It's Renewal by Anderson's 31-day sale. Before August 31st, save $485 on every window and save $835 on every patio door. Save an extra $750 on your entire project. Plus, don't pay anything for 1 year. Our 31-day sale ends August 31st. For a free appointment during our sale, call 208-427-8900.
We just have a couple of minutes left with Idaho Governor Brad Little. And sir, Farragut State Park was one of the parks on the list that's getting some investment. And in the break, you brought up an interesting story that happened for you while you were in Farragut State Park. Can you share that?
Well, when I tell people the first person ever on the moon, Neil Armstrong, called me from the moon, they perhaps don't believe me, but I was up there with 30 or 40,000 other Boy Scouts, and Neil Armstrong from the moon called us at Farragut. So that was a memorable. Well, the National Jamboree was memorable, but that was even more memorable. That was the second largest training base for the Navy during World War II. That was the genesis of Farragut.
You talked to Neil Armstrong while he was on the moon.
I didn't talk to him. He called me.
And so were you a scout at the time?
I was a Boy Scout, yeah. So.
And with all the other people there, that is a pretty cool story. We'll Google it to make sure.
That's right.
Okay. Finally, sir, just here going forward, we're in August now. What's your focus over the next couple of months?
Well, my job as the Chief Executive Officer is to execute the policy of the state and kind of be aware of other policies that might come up. We'll continue fiscal prudence. We'll continue with education investment. My goal always from the get-go has been I want Idaho to be a place where our kids want to choose to stay here, and that's quality of life, good jobs, safe streets, and a good education system, because the kids that are successful that might think about leaving the state, they're going to want their kids to have good schools, and that's why education is such a high priority.
Real quick, what do you do for fun in the summer?
Well, of course, this time of year, there's a few rodeos and a few parades, but if I get a chance, I go up the mountains and particularly with our grandchildren.
A little hiking?
Yeah, do a little hiking. So, Doug, for the people of Idaho, thank you for what you've done here in this community. Thank you for this great program and all the good work you've done. You'll really be missed, and the state of Idaho is going to miss you.
Thank you, sir. That does mean a lot to me. And it's always been a pleasure to cover you and to get to talk to you, and your availability. I've always appreciated that, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all for watching.